Okay, everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are tuning in from. It is the Week 7 recap show of ELF Live. My name is Nick and Matt. I'm your co-host, and we are here live on 5 different platforms, everybody. 5 different platforms. Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. So wherever you are watching from, welcome in. Your chat is interlinked with us. This is an interactive show, as you guys know. And I am here, of course, as always, on this beautiful Monday with my lovely co-host, my man, Matt Bressington. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing very well. Week 7 was good. You know, we're feeling nice. I'm feeling good. It's sunny. It's a bit too hot in the UK at the moment, but I'm feeling good. I
Why
appreciate
don't you go ahead and cherish the rare occasion when the sun comes out in the United Kingdom, Matt? Okay, we're going to go ahead and cherish that sunny weather. All right, everybody. We just got to get this out of the way really quickly. Matt, go ahead and move your neck from behind your microphone. Matt has got a mysterious bruise on his neck, okay? And this is not a hickey. This came from, Matt, tell the people.
From Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, got back into grappling, was doing my thing. We're doing head and arm chokes, we're doing some nice Kimuras and some nice Americanas. And yeah, I got bruises all over, but of course this one is the one that decides to show up. Did it this morning, and of course now during the ELF Live, we're now got a hickey mark on my neck. So that was a very awkward conversation to explain to my girlfriend.
Yeah, there you go. Well, you got a big mark on your neck from a guy named Big Mark. So everyone, don't give too much grief to Matt about his neck bruise. We are here to talk ELF football. Really quickly, guys, do us a quick favor. Wherever you're watching from, give us a thumbs up. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a heart. It helps the show out, helps spread the European League of Football out to more people. So make sure you do that. And hey, wherever you're watching from, go ahead and comment your country where you are watching from as well. Okay, so we got a great show for you. We're going to go through all of our individual game recaps as we always do. And we've got some interesting news. Allegedly, very high profile player in the league has been released from his team. We're going to touch on that. And then, of course, we've got the Citizen MVP of the Week voting, which you guys help us do. Matt and I are pretty undecided on who we want to nominate. So you guys are going to be very, very instrumental in that. So stick around for that. Excuse me. Week 7, ELF Live, presented by Euronics. Matt, let's dive on into it, starting off with our individual games of the week. Okay. First one, Matt, we've got the Madrid Bravos in a bit of a one-sided rout against our producer extraordinaire Maxi's team, the Hamburg Sea Devils, a 57-0 thumping. Matt, give me your thoughts on this one.
It was a one-sided beatdown, and it was Aaron Cruikshank and Reed Sinnott who were swinging the hammer. It was them again. Like I've said 100 times, it's become their show at this point because we feature them so often. They look incredible. I do still think Aaron Cruikshank is the favorite to win the MVP, the fastest player, figuratively and probably literally, to ever hit 1,000 yards in the ELF. And he's done it in 6 games. Never been done before, Nick. 6 games, 1,000 yards. That speaks to production he's had so far. And he got over 200 again in this game.
Absolutely incredible. Literally the fastest guy on the field and the fastest receiver to ever get to 1,000 yards. This man is taking the ELF by storm in his first ever season with the league. But yeah, Sinnott also, you know, he had himself a day. He threw for 350 yards and 6 touchdowns. This was a bit of a stat padding game for the Madrid Bravos, wouldn't you say, Matt?
Absolutely. I do, yeah. I mean, 100%. It was a good little warm backup into form. We got some players like Andy Owusu came into the team for his first game, come in to replace Selig and Barrow. So good for him to get some warm-up reps. Saw some people like Jordito getting their flowers as well. So overall, good for Madrid just to use some weapons. Six and Dragon was even getting involved with this one. Powder on as well. So it was good fun. It was a fun game from a Madrid standpoint.
We've got RF Production saying, will Hamburg score some points again? Michael Leon was not looking great. I think he was 11 for 30 or so, only completing about 33% of his passes with 3 picks, no touchdowns, not much offensive production there. Against, man, I mean, we don't really talk about Madrid's defense as being all that elite, do we?
No, we don't. They have some nice pieces. I mean, shout out Sebastian Bowen for the D-tackle getting the interception, but and on a weird like screen broken play. But I've been a fan of like Devonye Yin-Yang, who they brought in at safety for the American slot. I've been a big fan of him coming in. He's been an excellent player. I'm not going to try and butcher the name of the D tackle they brought in. CL, I believe is pronounced the first part of it is, but he's been good in improving their run stopping. So maybe this is a unit that's kind of on the rise.
This is interesting from the chat. We talk about how fast Cruikshank is, but Anthony Brown right here, I'm throwing this up, says he's fast, but he also breaks the first tackle every time. That is actually kind of an underrated part of his game as well, because he does do that and then he gets himself in the open field. It's not like he's just getting him in the open field all the time. He's creating some of these situations with the yard after the catch as well. This dude is just, would you say, Matt, that this is one of the most impressive runs, first debuts of an ELF player that we've seen?
I think it is. I think like Anthony Brown said, who was a former ELF receiver, so he knows what it takes to compete in this league. But like he says, Cruikshank's contact balance, his space creation, his ability to run with the ball in his hands, the speed around the corners is just next level. I think he's one of the best receivers to ever play in the league, like I said last week. And when you consider he's a 24-year-old player in his first ever season in Europe, like you think how crazy high his ceiling's going to be in a couple of years. He could be the next Turpin, you know? I don't want me to put that kind of comparison on, but Turpin had a lot of success, and Cruikshank has had even more technically success within Europe so far.
One of our favorite ELF alumni currently with the Dallas Cowboys signed himself a nice contract. All right, Aaron Cruikshank, keep running fast, keep breaking tackles, and maybe you'll be across the pond in a couple of years. So Madrid completely stomping out the Hamburg Sea Devils, who continue to struggle. Madrid rises up to 4-2, and the Sea Devils dropping to 2-5. All right, moving on to our next game. We have got the Wroclaw Panthers. How's that for pronunciation, you Europeans? Pretty good for an American, isn't it? Against the Fehervar Enthroners. This ended up being just a 5-point ball game. Not necessarily as close as the score made it seem, because the Enthroners were kind of clawing their way back, scoring with 2 minutes left to make it a one-score ball game. But Matt, Brock Dahman, he actually played pretty well, man. He was 23 for 36, 259 yards, and 3 TDs. He didn't throw an interception. I was actually reasonably impressed with him. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, he did good, especially at the end as well. When they needed him most, he was able to perform, which was impressive. He looked great coming off his injury, and I don't mean to be that guy, Nick, but we all said to the Enthroners all season, you need an American DB, you need an American DB. They sign an American DB, and all of a sudden they have their most competitive game of the season. Like, it's not rocket science to suggest that was why, because he had a great game. Dennis was really good, phenomenal. Their linebacker as well, Potter, who we've talked about on the show with the Science Center, he got over 14 tackles and 2 sacks. So he was an impact player. So it looks like the Enthroners listening to the critics.
Are the Enthroners watching ELF live?
They might just be, because they've made some turnarounds, and this was the best game they played this season by far. For the Panthers, though, I mean, damn.
Well, Matt, let's talk about the Panthers, okay? Well, a slight bright spot for the Panthers. Darryl Stewart had a day. He had 100-plus yards and 2 touchdowns. That was great to see him have a game like that. However, according to one of the more prominent names in the European League of Football, Devin Burrell, from his Instagram, has said that he has been released from the Panthers. We have the graphic here from his Instagram story. Released from Wroclaw. Contact me, please, if any opportunities. Now, I think a lot of people are probably going to be pretty surprised and maybe shocked by this news. Again, this has not come from the team. This has just come from Burrell himself on his personal Instagram. So we're waiting to hear it officially announced by the team. But Matt, what are your thoughts? This is the back-to-back special teams player of the year, and he had a lot of great special teams contributions and touchdowns, return touchdowns so far this year as well. How do you feel about this?
It's a strange one. Me and Devin are friends, so it is definitely an awkward one. I think the production he was putting on special teams, like you say, has always been immaculate. Like, was he like my top 3, top 5 corner? No, but I don't think that he was the only player on that defense who was not having a very good season. I don't think many members of that DB core have had a good season, to be honest, and they've been inadequate in a few other places, not just the defense. Their offense has also had issues. The play calling, the run design. Like, we know how good David Brzozowski is, and he was having a very slow season for the first 5 weeks. So I can't help but feel, I don't want to say scapegoat, but we've seen the Panthers do this before when they just kind of like say, oh, well, player out, let's get a new guy and everything's going to be magically fine. It doesn't work like that. Devin Burrell's a multiple time special teams player of the year. And like the impact of having a great punt returner, even if he's not scoring touchdowns in every play, when your offense is starting on the 40 or the 30 every single drive, like that's a lot of value that you're taking away from your offense effectively.
Absolutely. And we've actually got Devin Burrell is in the Instagram live right here, Dev. So we're talking about the situation that you posted on your Instagram story that you were released by the Panthers. It's kind of a shocking situation for a lot of people around the league. It's a great point, Matt. I mean, special teams is so overlooked in football. And when you've got a guy that's getting your offense starting in just premier field position time after time, it's something that you just cannot overlook. Special teams is 1/3 of the game of football, and there just hasn't been a guy that has contributed in that phase of the game the way that he has so consistently. Do you think, Matt, that he's going to find another landing spot in the ELF? Is there a team that you would think could maybe be a good fit?
That's a good question. I haven't quite thought about like a schematical fit, but like injuries are part of the game with any level of football, so there will, and pretty much every team has a DB as an American aligned spot. So I'm sure there will be opportunities. Of course, in an ideal world, we'd have him still in the league and we wouldn't have any players injured. But if I'm just looking at the moment, I know that Nordic Storm just put Xavier Edwards on IR, so maybe they bring in Devin Burrell. Not so sure. I've heard rumors they might have already found their guy, but you never know. But Nordic Storm with Devin Burrell, that would be kind of fun, no?
That will be very, very fun. So this was a interesting situation here for the Panthers and for Devin Burrell. And we will see how this plays out. But the Panthers were able to hold on with the victory and rise to 500, sitting there at 3-3. But just like you said, and Throner sitting there at 0-6, man. But they have made clear steps of improvement. I will say their run game essentially non-existent in this past week. I mean, it's tough. You do have a guy like AJ Wentland there in that front seven. But I think they ran the ball for 18 yards. It's not really going to cut it, even when Brock Dummett is playing pretty solidly. But we do like to see these strides made by franchises in the ELF. I mean, Matt, hey, take a look at the Prague Lions. Okay. And we're going to be talking about them in a little bit. So it is very doable. So we will be keeping our eye and ear on the Devin Burrell situation and where he could possibly land if he stays in the league. So there we have it. Panthers holding on to win 5 points over the Fehervar in Throners. All right. Moving on to our next game. And we got to give a shout out. Marcus is in the chat. He's a little late. Welcome back, Marcus. Welcome. He's here. So, everybody, I know a lot of people are curious about this game. The Helvetic Mercenaries and the Nordic Storm. This game was officially postponed. The Helvetic Mercenaries released a statement that they were struggling with injuries and were unable to properly field enough guys and field the team to play this game this weekend. It's an unfortunate situation. From the league side of things, the league is going to be working with both franchises to find a time to reschedule this game. Okay, so this game is officially not canceled. It is postponed. The goal will be to find another date where these teams can play each other. Unfortunate situation for the Mercenaries, but currently the plan right now is for the Mercenaries to play this week. They'll be hosting Paris. Just from the league side of things, the league is doing everything they can, working with these franchises. You got to remember, these are all separate entities and organizations, and the league will be doing everything they can to get that game back on the schedule. So, Matt, you have any comments on this?
Yeah, it's just a shame to see, the bottom like one team in each division, maybe bar Berlin and Hamburg, just not quite getting it. This is the best season we've ever had in the ELF, and it does seem like this is going to maybe put a bit of a blemish for some people. But like you said, this is nothing. This is their problem, effectively, that they need to fix. There are plenty of players in Switzerland who are going to be looking for opportunities to play in the ELF. They also have Italian players that they can have as homegrowns, and they've just finished the IFL season just this weekend. So there are tons of players they can bring in. It's all up to the management to actually get them in the building, because they've got everything they need. They just need to make the decisions to get them in.
And we have it. So take some advice from Matt Bressington, as the Prague Lions have done in the past, all right, and turn some things around. Welcome, ELFpedia. Hey, I'm late. Start over again, please. Yeah, some of our regulars rolling a little late today. I know it's Monday, but welcome to the show, guys. All right, so there we have it. That game is postponed, and we'll be keeping you updated on when it will be rescheduled too. All right, moving on to a game that was actually played better by one team than by another. The Rhein Fire absolutely dominated the Berlin Thunder. Jacob Sullivan was out. They had El Hendy playing quarterback on the Berlin side. And Matt, what do I say every single week about the Berlin Thunder? It drives me absolutely crazy. They have no run game at all. Hey, at least they broke 50 yards rushing this week. I mean, last week they were in the teens, I believe. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's a shame they didn't announce that a bit earlier. Personally, I like to know when players are not going to be playing, just for me, just to enjoy the game, especially for the fans that turned up to the games. But it was a cruising for Ryan. They're starting to get their kind of wheels back in motion with Armstrong at head coach, and they have looked reinvigorated. Like they're back in the playoffs now, which is very interesting with this win. But now they're putting the league on notice. I'm focusing more so on them than I'm on Berlin, of course. But like, Rhein Fire looks scary right now, and I think a lot of teams are starting to make notes about them.
It's interesting. Chad is not throwing the ball so much. Chad, I know this was an absolute blowout game, so he didn't play the whole time, but he only threw the ball 10 times. He did have 2 touchdowns and like 60 yards, very, very precise. But we've seen this kind of week after week. He's not throwing the ball that much. He's throwing the ball 14, 15, 16 times a game. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
I mean, sometimes it's an injury that they just want to like keep him in, just to keep him fresh, keep him warm. It could just be they have such a great running game. Like they have 2 very good running backs in Scott Kendis, and they have TJ Alexander as well and Paul Brewer. So you have a lot of depth at the position. Chad is, I don't want to be rude to Chad, an older quarterback in the ELF. So
Matt, you're careful there. You're talking to a guy in his 30s.
they're trying to maybe like manage him throughout the season, get him completely into swing in terms of the playoff season. I think is maybe what they're doing. We'll find out, but we've seen the same thing with the Surge with Riley. Sure. They kind of don't pass that much with him when the games are lopsided, and this week it was actually not very lopsided for them, and maybe that played a factor in some of the cooler players. But obviously, we'll get back to that.
Yeah, we will get to that game. Speaking of Scott, earlier he did run all over Berlin, 14 carries for 154 yards and 2 touchdowns. So the Rhein Fire able to dominate the struggling Berlin Thunder. All right, Matt, I know you're excited. Let's move on to our next game, and this is going to be the Matt Bressington segments. As it is whenever the Prague Lions have an exciting weekend in the ELF, going into Frankfurt, into the purple hell it is sometimes known, and beating the Frankfurt Galaxy at their home field. Matt, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great, Nick. Thanks for asking. So first and foremost, Lions undefeated on the road, I believe, so far this season, which is quite impressive. But if you remember, you cast your mind back to when me and you were together in Cologne, Nick. This was the game. This was the very game that the Galaxy said I didn't know ball, because I predicted that the Prague Lions would win this game. And what
you did.
They won this damn game.
You took a lot of flack from the Frankfurt Galaxy social media team.
So much, I'm a small voice. I've only got a couple thousand followers, and they got a big corporation. So I felt come after, and I've responded with a W. So I'm very happy. Individual wise, Amzu Zelka had an amazing game. The play calling by Warner was fantastic. Those shovel passes were beautiful. The defense is a top 5 defense in the league right now. I mean, Lotoro is leading the league in interceptions. I think the Jakub Smudny is an all-star defensive tackle. Arthur Kingdom, I think, is an all-star linebacker. Ken Hike, Drew Embry. This is a top 5 defensive unit. I think it's hard to argue that. The offensive line looks great as well. Javarian's finally hit some of the bit more of that scoring form, because his stats were a little lower, obviously, but he's still getting touchdowns. Damn, I'm Willie P. If that ain't an offensive player of the year nominee, I don't know what is. This team the vibes are immaculate. I'm not gonna lie. It's very 2022 Barcelona Dragons.
The vibes are immaculate, and we saw that touchdown celebration from the Prague Lions. It's going a little bit viral on social media. It's hitting some of our friends all the way in Indonesia. So if you're tuning in from Indonesia, welcome to the European League of Football. Sometimes it doesn't take a play on the field, but it takes a touchdown celebration to really on into this beautiful sport and this beautiful league. So there's a lot of positive stuff to say about Prague, Matt, a lot of positive stuff. But we got to talk about Frankfurt. So Jesse Delgado in the chat right here, I'm throwing this up, says, after 3 straight tough losses, who's on the hot seat in Frankfurt? After Sunday's game, the best way I can describe the Frankfurt defensive performance is poor tackling. Poor tackling can be very, very harmful for a defense. What do you think, Matt? Who is on the hot seat in Frankfurt? Because this is not what this organization expects.
That is a tough question, isn't it? Because the Galaxy, they've been doing this for a while. It's not like this is a new thing. We saw this all last year when they didn't have a full staff. They bring in basically a whole new front staff for this team, and it's the same problems. It's a new team, new players, quite a lot of them anyway, new coaching staff. It's the same problems. So I don't know if it's a cultural thing just within the team, but I mean, we saw a little bit back and forth, drawing off in the tunnel even after the game, and I think this isn't the first time this has happened with the Galaxy this season. Right. So I don't know. Maybe I don't want to call it a culture. I'm not around the team, but for me, it doesn't. I think they need a full reset. I think they need to clean house a little bit, get in some fresh faces, and just have a more positive outlook. They tried to be the villain of the league, which I like. I liked them being the villain of the league, but you've got to be able to back it up if you're going to try and be that kind of heel of the ELF. You know,
you do. You know what? Speaking of good vibes, we got the man himself in the chat, Willie Patterson. He says, I appreciate the love, Matt. Willie P, we've interviewed Willie P on this show. Obviously, we all know what he does on the football field, but he's got that energy, that positive energy that is clearly translating a lot throughout the Prague organization. And Matt, you're talking about culture with Frankfurt not being so great right now. The culture with Prague seems incredible right now. I mean, this is a team that's just had such a turnaround led by guys like Willie P. It's very, very impressive to see. General Amberg in the chat says, McKay is not the right quarterback for Frankfurt. What do you make of that, Matt? We've seen McKay. He's talented, and he's shown flashes of awesome ability, but a lot of inconsistency as well.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm going to just touch, you said about culture. Like, we've seen this with the Prague Lions. You look 2 years ago, they were getting blown out by 70. They had turmoil where players weren't turning up to games and kind of like a strike situation. Right. 2 years later, they're one of the hottest teams in ELF. So if you're going to take inspiration for the Colognes, for the Enthroners, for Helvetic, these teams at the bottom, look at the Prague blueprint, see what they did with the culture of that team and turn it around. To answer that second point, McKay's a weird one, isn't it? Too many turnovers. He looked good last season in the time that he had. He obviously went off with a bad injury. Wow. Came back. I praised the return because I thought it was a good move to build around the quarterback. We don't see a ton of quarterback development with Americans in this league, but it's not been great. He's got all the weapons. He had Terry Wright. He has Easton, who's a very talented receiver. He's got Nico Straman. He's got Kevin Kai. He's got Len Hart. He's got a fantastic offensive line. Granted, one of them wasn't playing in this weekend's game, but he has Sandro Platzgummer, again, injury concerns, but he also has Jared Allman. There's no excuse to not use these offensive weapons. The tools are there. I'm not sure if it's play calling, because some play calling does look a little bit dire, but I think we need to see him come out a little bit. I think, I don't mean to be cruel, I don't mean to be rude, but I think he's playing for his ELF career over these next 6 or the left remainder of the season.
I think that's a fair assumption. We got a couple people in the chat hammering Patterson MVP. Matthew 18:12. Patterson MVP. Arthur Kingdom says Willie P for MVP. Willie VP. I don't know if we can find a good campaign slogan for Willie Patterson. He's brought some lightning. And not just him, of course, Javarian Smith as well. Like you touched on him. He's not, Javarian Smith's not putting up crazy numbers. He, to me, has been a very, very competent game manager, been smart, not making too many mistakes. I think he had 4 touchdowns in this game, no picks. Like, it's very, very solid. And they're just putting these pieces together, man. And the Prague Lions are currently the story of the ELF, and we love to see it. Just to end it, Jesse Delgado says Prague has done a great job when it comes to opening up the playbook and getting creative to keep defenses guessing. They're doing just that. The Prague Lions currently sitting at 4-2 right now in week 7 of the ELF. I mean, Matt Bressington's got a big smile on his face.
Right, dude.
I don't know what's more egregious, me being a homer for the Stuttgart Surge or Matt being a homer for the Prague Lions. But hey, Matt, you deserve it. There you go.
Shit.
All right, moving on to our next game. The Battle of the Austrian Brothers. The Vienna Vikings traveling to beautiful Innsbruck, Austria to take on their little brother. Sorry, Raiders fans, the Tirol Raiders. And I'm allowed to say that because the Tirol Raiders have not beat the Vienna Vikings one time in their ELF career. Not one time. The Vikings come on in there to one of the most beautiful stadiums in all of Europe. And Matt, this game, look, the final score is 1 possession. This game was not that close. Ben Holmes, kind of back to the Ben Holmes that we like. He was way more accurate than he's been in previous weeks. He was 24 for 33, 255 yards passing, and 5 touchdown passes. 3 of those going to big man Florian Bierbaumer, who had 7 catches for 3 touchdowns. Pretty unstoppable there. Matt, thoughts on this game?
Oh my God, Bierbaumer, just what a bloody player he is, man. Like, he just seems to turn up. I think it was Jamal put in the chat when I was working, and he put that Bierbaumer always turns up to play against the Raiders. And he put the stats. He's got like 7 touchdowns previous to this one in like 3 games against the Raiders. He's just added a hat trick again. Like, this man, he just lives and breathes Vikings. I know he's not former Viking when it comes to his team. I know he's played for Graz, but like, he just seems to just turn up in this rivalry game. He looks phenomenal. It's just him at the end of the day. Like, it's his performance. He really shone as just the best player on the field, I think, in this particular game.
Absolutely dominant, and just a matchup nightmare as well, with like that athleticism, the catching ability, the big size, just a lot of things that just keep defensive coordinators up at night. On the Raiders side, like N'Kosi Perry, he was solid. He had some flash. He threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. But the Raiders had, I believe, double the amount of penalties. They were just sloppier than the Vikings. And when we think about the Vikings typically are one of the more buttoned up organizations in this league. And the Vikings, when they're already struggling against their national rival like this, you can't be having double the amount of penalties. You've got to be buttoned up as well, and that's not helping them at all. Matt, do we see a situation in the near future ever where the Raiders are able to beat the Vikings?
That's a great question. I'm going to go, I think, do you know what's crazy, right, is that Divine Buckram and Devin Taylor, both the 2 American corners in this game, played for the Raiders at one point in their career. Like, that just got to add a little bit of salt to the wounds. Like, he's also Yannick Meyer as well, was suited in this game. He's another former Raider. Like, there's so many former guys that could be in black and silver, but they're in purple or white. And I think that's the thing. They're losing the recruitment battle when it comes to those Austrian talented players. And I think they need to look in the AFL, like Graz and with the Ducks, and bring in some of those guys, because that's going to make a big difference if they want to try and compete with them in the next few seasons, because could be playoff seeding for them. It's huge.
Absolutely. ELFpedia says it was very evil by the Vikings to give the Raiders any hope in waste time. Because like we said, the Raiders scored a couple near at the end there. This game was essentially over in the 3rd quarter. But the Vienna Vikings continue to dominate. The little brother of Austria, the Raiders Tirol Vikings, now sitting at 5-1, and the Raiders Tirol drop to 4-3. That's our Austrian rivalry, Matt. And we've also got a very interesting German rivalry coming up. But first, I almost forgot about our next game. The Paris Musketeers and the Cologne Centurions. Matt, this was another one-sided rout. Very, very expected. I don't think anybody's surprised by this. This was another kind of stat padding game for the Paris Musketeers. How are you feeling about this one, Matt?
I mean, I think it's good for Jalen to build up a little bit more confidence, a little bit more movement as he heads towards the middle of the season. I'm kind of regretting not putting Nicholas Kandar in my fantasy football team after he had such an outstanding performance. That kind of hurt watching him go for all those yards while he's not on my fantasy team. I had a great week, but like you say, it was a blowout, but I think it was more sort of like a training exercise for them. Cologne, again, still in the same kind of like respect for going out there, respect for turning up to the games where other teams didn't this week due to injuries, and Cologne is still there playing football. So I can only salute the Cologne Centurions on this one.
Yeah. Salute to the Cologne Centurions players. Now in the chat, Get Rich and Disappear. That's a funny name. He said, "Are y'all also live on YouTube?" You missed it at the beginning of the show. Yes, we are. We're live on 5 different platforms. And I think this is another great time to say, wherever you're watching, give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on the live stream right here to help distribute the show out to more people via the gods of the algorithms on these social platforms. So please give us a thumbs up here if you're a fan of ELF football. Matt, Paris Musketeers. So they had this easy game here. They've also got the Helvetic Mercenaries scheduled for next week. You worry about them having a little bit of a lull here in the middle of the schedule?
No, I don't think so. I think one of the pages that cover the ELF put like the Cologne curse. The teams, whenever they beat Cologne, lose their next one. It happened with the Galaxy as well just a couple weeks ago. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen in this one. I do think Paris are too good for Helvetic, but of course we'll get to that in our predictions at the end of the week. But
Yes,
I don't see them calling upset, to be honest.
No, I would avoid doing that, Matt. I would avoid doing that. All right. So the Cologne Centurions dropped to 0-6. Paris Musketeers absolutely dominant, sitting now at 4-2. Now, Matt, let's get on to our Southern Germany rivalry, one of my favorite rivalries in the European League of Football. And boy, oh boy, did this game live up to expectations. One of our favorite games of the year so far, an absolute back and forth thriller between two great franchises. And Matt, we would be remiss to not talk about the young quarterback, Russell Tabor of the Munich Ravens. He's in his first season with the ELF. Man had 241 yards through the air and 3 touchdowns. He did have 3 interceptions. Granted, at least one of those was not really his fault. And then, Matt, he added another 100 yards on the ground. This man is dynamic. He's exciting. He is pretty poised, especially for his young age. Thoughts on this game?
I think this is the kind of game that you can watch kind of nicely until it gets the last 4 minutes, and then your heart's going to start having palpitations because we had a Riley pick followed by a Russell pick followed by a big run by Tomawa followed by a game-winning drive where Tabor did a flip, busted his nose on his face mask, blood pouring out, just suits up next play, throws a touchdown to Philip Okonowu. Like the last 4 minutes of this was, I believe, probably the best like peak ELF so far, and it was incredible. It's just watching it, a birth of a star really on Tabor's end. You look at the stats, he threw 3 picks, but like, damn, still he's only 22. Like he's still developing, and my goodness, this was the kind of game that goes on for generations, right? I want to say, people say about the experts getting it wrong. I picked them to win this game the first time, and they lost it. So I went 1-1 with that. I just got it the wrong way round. I'm never right. I'm just a bit late on this one. You know?
Well, Matt, if you're late, you're wrong. Okay, Karen Hag does not like the expert picks. And you know what? She gets to rub it in the faces today. We've got a bunch of people gassing up Russell Tabor in the chat. We got Willie P, who we were just gassing up ourselves, says Russell Tabor is a dude. Alex Tabor, perhaps a relation, a brother maybe, says Russ T, baby. I like that support right there. And then Joseph Ravello says Tabor was running like Jackson Dart with no regard for his health. You know, we like to see that sometimes. We don't want to see our quarterbacks running out and having no regard for their health. We want them to stay healthy and be able to continue to play. But it is entertaining when we have guys going out there like that and putting on the performance as he did. I mean, Matt, this is just what goes to show the top level of this league. These are 2 great franchises. And, you know, Hennessy, he was all 2s. He had 2 touchdowns, he had 2 picks, and he was sacked 2 times. You know, not an incredible performance from him, but still back and forth between Hennessy and Tabor. Just as you said, those 2 picks back at the end of the game, very, very exciting. On the positive side for the Surge, I know they came away with the loss, but Harley Jr. was great. He had 100+ yards and touchdown. Geyer was productive this week, having a nice touchdown across the middle and 80+ yards or so. But this is what really stood out to me, Matt. The Ravens dominated time of possession, 38 minutes to 21, and the Surge had double the penalty yards. So those are 2 kind of little stats, not such beautiful glorified stats right there, but those make a big, big difference in a football game. Let's see. ELFpedia says, check my theory of Surge can't win 1-score games. Not true. They have lost 8, 1-7 in franchise history, so it is balanced. Okay, that's interesting to know. Yeah, we've seen the Surge win some 1-score games as well. Karen says the crowd was too loud for the Surge. We gave everything for our boys. Yeah, they did, man. They really did. So, Matt, I mean, I know we'll have power rankings later in the week, But the Munich Ravens now are making a case for themselves to jump up pretty high, are they not?
I think you're right. I was literally just discussing this with a Paris player literally today about Munich, and they're like, "Oh no, they're below Paris, surely." I'm like, "I don't know about that. I think they could be making a case to be maybe number one, maybe number two. Like they've been phenomenal." And the great thing about Karen saying about the crowd, like you get this guy for 3 years. People forget he's on a 3-year contract, and he looks this damn good in his rookie season. So let's see how he looks at the end of that one. I think this is the future of the ELF. He looks incredible, and I'm really excited to see how he develops. Because my goodness, what a kind of like performance to endure the fans in and just buy into a player. That's the kind of stuff that you need from a player.
We had Jim Boy 94. Russell Tabor is giving me Magic Zach vibes. A little bit of that, especially with that run with the hurdle and the helmet falling off. It was very Magic Zach-esque. So maybe he's the reincarnation. We lose Magic Zach in the league, but we get his young reincarnation there in Russell Tabor. So this was an absolute thriller of a game. Unfortunate for the Stuttgart Surge, but this is exactly what we like in the league. These tight ball games against two franchises that are bitter rivals. They battle over that Southern Germany recruiting ground, and they put that tension on the football field as well. Two very fun teams to watch. And who knows? I mean, we're going to look at our playoff picture here in a second. They're currently both in the playoff picture. I know it changes every week, but the Munich Ravens escaping this one with the last 12-second touchdown to defeat the Stuttgart Surge 33-36. There we have it, Matt. Those are our games of the week. Max, if you throw up our beautiful graphic of all the scores, we love these graphics right here. There they are. Matt, I think I know what your favorite game of the week was, but why don't you go ahead and tell the people?
My favorite game was the Prague Lions decimating the Frankfurt Galaxy in clinical performance with exceptional play calling, exceptional top 5 defense, and just putting a bit of a statement. Everyone was like, they've not played anyone difficult. They played Endurance, they played Panthers. They beat Hamburg when Hamburg aren't looking too good, but this was a big win. Couldn't be more proud of the boys in Prague.
There you go. Love that. Guys, everybody in the chat, let us know what your favorite game of the week was. Spam that in the chat right now, what your favorite game was. I'm going to have to go, Matt, even though it personally kind of hurt my heart and my feelings a little bit in the end, the Stuttgart Surge Munich Ravens game, because Jiminy Christmas, what beautiful football, what exciting football, what a great story there with the back and forth. A lot of high-level ball players on there. Came down to the final 12 seconds. That's going to have to be my favorite one of the week. I will stick with the Stuttgart Surge Munich Ravens, even though my Surge lost. I don't have a Surge hat to put on right now, Matt, as you have your Prague Lions hat, but that's who we have got. All right, moving on. We are about to go into our most important, well, not quite yet. Excuse me, I got ahead of myself. This is the playoff picture that we just mentioned. So the playoff picture, obviously, in the middle of the season here, it's shuffling around every single week, and this is the current situation. Rhein Fire and Paris Musketeers. And then we've got the Nordic Storm and the Stuttgart Surge on the other side. And the two teams currently sitting with the buys will be the Vienna Vikings and the Munich Ravens. So many questions why the Nordic Storm sitting at 5-0. Why are they not where the Vikings are or the Ravens are? That's a very good question, my dear fans. And the answer to that is it has to do with your in-conference wins. Okay, they have less in-conference wins than some of these other teams. So even though they're 5-0 and they have no losses, the in-conference wins are what matter more. The Nordic Storm, unfortunately, also missed out on a game this week. But I think by the end of the year, if they keep this up, perhaps the Nordic Storm would then be in that position. If you want to look in detail right here, we're throwing up the tiebreaker rules, but we've got a nice looking playoff bracket right now. That would be very exciting to watch, Matt. I do say if the season were to end today. What are your thoughts on this?
I think that would be exciting. I like the Paris versus Rhein one. That could be fun. We had that last year. It was really heated at some points, but haven't got to have it so far this season. I'm looking at those other, these matchups are great, and there's so other more matchups on the table as well. Like the Raiders and Madrid and Prague are all not in the playoffs at the moment, so it could switch and change at any point. I think that though the reigniting that Fire versus Musketeers would be really, really fun for me to watch.
That would be very, very fun. I'd also be so curious about that Stuttgart Nordic Storm game right there. I mean, Jadrian obviously has history with the Stuttgart Surge coaching staff and some of those players. It would be a very, very interesting matchup. Vienna Vikings, Ravens up there. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting football to be played for the rest of the season, but this will probably be changing week after week, and we'll be touching on it every single Monday as the playoff picture shifts. So there we have it. And now, Matt, I got a little bit too excited, but it is our most important segment of the week, and everybody in the chat, lock in, okay? Because you have to help us. We are going to be deciding who is nominated officially for our Citizen MVP of the week. Now, we've prepared some of these guys right here. We've got some names that we think should be in the conversation, but if we've missed any, you let us know in the chat. And then, chat, you have to help us decide because it's kind of a tough decision this week. Matt, why don't you start us off with who we've got in the conversation with one of your boys?
It is one of my boys. It's Javarian Smith, my number one guy. Look at the numbers. He did great in a passing game, efficient, effective, great in a run game. 5 touchdowns makes a difference. He broke out of the mold a little bit in this game. This was a spectacular performance.
Yes, it was another spectacular performance on the offensive side of the ball. Aaron Cruikshank, granted, playing against that Hamburg defense, but he put up 13 catches, 200 plus yards, and 3 touchdowns. The Aaron Cruikshank domination continues in week 7. And then, Matt, a guy we were just talking about, who do we got?
We got Russell Tabor. I think you're going to look at the numbers, think that's a great one, but those turnovers. But I'm willing, remember when you put in Hahn for the impact he had in that last drive of the Raiders versus Surge back last season?
Right.
That last drive, I think, endears him into potentially being this week's MVP.
Guys in the conversation in the chat, you got to let us know if those 3 interceptions disqualify him, because we're happy with the performance, but those 3 interceptions are a blemish if we're talking MVP for performance. But you guys let us know if it is still deserved. Now, moving on to another guy who had a great week, Florian Bierbaumer, like we said, beaten up on his Austrian little brother, 7 catches, 91 yards. And Matt, as you said, the hat trick, 3 more touchdowns against the Raiders Tirol for Florian Bierbaumer.
There we go. Not quite 3 touchdowns, but 2 touchdowns for Jonathan Scott, who finished with over 10 yards a carry in this game. Great performance by him. Glad to see him actually picking up some steam as well for the Panama running back.
There we go. And then finally, throwing to Aaron Cruikshank, of course, is Reed. In it to win it, sin it. 83.3% completion percentage. I like that. I like high completion percentage. I like that accuracy. 348 yards and 6 touchdown passes. Absolutely dominant performance through the air for Reed Sinnott. All right, everybody. Those are the guys that we've got in the conversation. You need to help us decide the 2 players who are going to be officially nominated. All right. So spam that in the chat. Who you think? Marcus says being a Raven disqualifies Tabor. I love that. That's biased fanship showing through there, Marcus. I love that. Matt, who's at the top of your mind right now?
I think obviously Aaron Cruikshank is definitely around there. It's not often you see, well, I would say it's not often you see someone with 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, but for him, it kind of is. So is this an average performance by him? I don't know. I think Javarian Smith as well, 5 touchdowns, big win. Like it was probably the biggest win ever. It's the first time Prague have ever beaten a champion or a former champion of the ELF. So I think that holds some weight too. This was a big one for him, big one for Aaron. That's my 2 ones I'm going between at the moment. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I like that right there. I think Cruikshank has got to probably be in the conversation, even though it was against Hamburg. I mean, 200 plus yards is just absolutely ridiculous. I'm being a little influenced by the chat, maybe a little bit of peer pressure is hitting me, Matt, but I feel like I'm willing to overlook those interceptions on Tabor. Jesse Delgado says Tabor would be my MVP for the week, rebounding from his late interception to go on the final drive to secure the win. And he said Bierbaumer was number 2. Tabor was for sure the most valuable, says Coach Moss. Picks don't matter, wins do.
Yeah.
Am I getting swayed in the wind here? Because I really kind of want to overlook those interceptions, because he did lead the team with that final game-winning drive right there in a fantastic performance outside of those interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's valid. And he is also it is the clinching, and they take the division at the moment currently still with that win. So it's against a rival as well, 1 possession game, last minute. So I'm not opposed to him being in there. Like I'm a big Tabor fan, so
okay,
I'm not mad at it. I'll take.
Are you gonna throw up Cruikshank then? Is Cruikshank gonna be your nominee?
Oh my gosh. Do I want to go Cruikshank or do I want to go Javarian? Oh, I might need help with chat on this one. Do I want to go Cruikshank? Because it looks like Russ is definitely a favorite. I'm seeing a Mason Parker is going for Javarian Smith. On the road, it was a great win. Even Roman backing his boy with Tabor time. Oh, seems like Tabor seems to be the positive choice.
I'm leaning for my vote, Matt. I'm going Tabor, and I think a lot of the people in the chat are with us. Granted, I think we do have a lot of Tabor fans in the chat right here, but hey, that's the benefit you get for sticking around for the end of this. You have influence on who gets decided to be nominated for MVP. I think Tabor's going to be one. Who's going to be the other, Matt? Or chat?
Yeah,
you want to ask chat? Javarian
or Cruikshank? Yeah, Javarian Smith around Cruikshank. I need just should we do
chat?
First to 5? Should we do first to 5 in the chat?
We'll give you 30. Let's give chat 30 seconds, okay? Because we got a slight delay here with chat. Cruikshank or Smith for the other one. Cruikshank or Smith, chat. Spam it. Your votes count.
Do you value big stats against a team that wasn't very good, or do you value little less stats in the production, but he did score more against a better team? I think I am leaning Javarian Smith, to be honest.
Hold on, let's see. Our producer Maxie says he can throw up a poll. Maxie, how do they vote in the poll?
Hell yeah!
How do they vote in the poll? Do they comment or they click?
Ooh, good question. There's a hashtag sometimes, isn't it?
Sometimes it's a hashtag.
We got some people saying Smith, Cruikshank.
We got a lot of Javarian, Matt. Look at that. A lot of Smith.
Yeah. I think I'm leaning towards it. We got Arthur Kingdom. He's supporting his quarterback right there too.
Look, okay. Madrid Bravos fan says Cruikshank. Madrid Bravos, you should have came in with a more anonymous name. Right? Your vote is void with that bias, just like Karen Hogg. No offense, Karen, but your vote is void. We need unbiased voters here.
It does seem Smith is taking a command and lead now. You reckon? I think he is. Look at that. That's all. That's bleeding Smith red.
That's Javarian Smith and Russell Tabor, Matt. I think those are going to be our two nominees. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's got his teammates in there too. Bealey's in there too. I think it's got to be Javarian Smith. And what a performance by him. That's another Prague line on the MVP award. I'm just saying.
There we go. All right, everybody. So Javarian Smith and Russell Tabor, two quarterbacks who got the wins this weekend, will be officially nominated for MVP of the week. You know the drill. You go on the ELF Instagram story in the next 24 hours and you vote to decide who will be the next player on this beautiful graphic, Maxie, of all of our previous MVPs. Can you throw that up? The honor of being on this graph. Look at that. There we go. That's beautiful. You know what's a little bit sad right there, Matt, as we see Devin Burrell week 1.
Yeah.
No longer with the team, allegedly.
Second time Panthers have done that. Steven Duncan got week 1 MVP last year. So maybe it's just a Panthers thing.
It's a curse. If a Panthers player wins MVP week 1, you know he's doomed to be released in the middle of the season.
Kind of true, isn't it? Oh my gosh.
We can't argue with the data. Madrid Bravos fan says, what's an unbiased fan? Does that even exist? Smith is a great choice. Madrid Bravos fan, we're just giving you a little bit of a hard time because your username is Madrid Bravos fan. We're just joking. Your vote counts. You just got less votes. Okay? Yeah. We got a lot of Javarian Smith. All right, so there we have it. Everybody remember to vote on the Instagram story. And this is what we've got coming up this weekend. Matt, just because I don't know yet what time we're going to do on Friday, if I'm going to be able to do it on Friday or not, if you might be doing it without me, let's take a look at these games coming up. What are you excited for this weekend?
I think Raiders Fire is sticking out to me. That could be massive if the Raiders have any chance of making the playoffs. They've realistically got to go through Rhein. And I think for me, that's magical. But also, I mean, Ravens versus Madrid. Yes, please.
I like that Ravens. That Ravens Madrid game could be very, very interesting. Very interesting. Be good test of that high-power Madrid offense since Ravens are pretty hot right now. So I like that one. I got my eye on that as well. All right. Vienna trap game, says our producer, Maxie. Don't get Matt Bressington excited. You're going to get Matt Prague Lions beat the Vienna Vikings, and he will do it.
If they do, if Prague beat Vienna, I'm getting lights in the background with fireworks. We're doing a Jason Pierre-Paul situation possibly, but I'm going crazy. I'm stuttering just at the thought of it. I'll go mental.
He will go mental, a favorite word of our British brethren, mental. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, for sticking around, for participating in the chat. This show drives through you guys in the chat. One more time, please remember to give a thumbs up on wherever you are watching to help spread this show and spread the ELF. Remember to vote, and we will be back on Friday for some more ELF football. Thank you, everybody. See you next time.